Well, hello. Welcome to
Hello.
Taurus season. I have one surprise for you before we jump into tonight.
I have a surprise for you too. Okay,
Oh
you
my
go first.
goodness.
You go
I
first. It's
will
very
go first.
exciting.
My surprise has a couple parts. Um, I will go through them quickly. So it is a
Oh
pop sensory toy tiny purse.
my God.
Um, the bubbles pop in and they pop out of this
Wow.
little purse. The whole purse is like that. And then I'm like, well, if I have a purse, let's play what's in the bag, Ursula. What's in the bag?
Mm.
Bundle of cedar.
Yeah,
hmm
excellent.
Um, Cube of Carmex.
Mm-hmm.
Starlight Mint.
Nice.
A very large Lemurian crystal.
Wow.
And you're not ready.
I'm
The
not ready.
fucking piece of moldavite I lost 2 years ago.
Oh my God. It's back, baby.
This
It's
is the
back.
moldavite I was telling you about 2 episodes ago that I could
Wow.
not find.
I can't believe it's come back to you. I've never had a Moldavite actually return from the other dimension. So very pleased, very
We
pleased
came
to
back.
see that.
We
There's
called it
hope.
out, and it's like, never mind.
Yeah. Yeah, we are talking about it. It's like, oh, no, that's not right. No, we're not interdimensional. No, no, no. Look, I'm right here in this purse.
Called you out,
I
bitch. There you are.
love that it looks like an orange slice.
Doesn't it? This is an incredible piece of
It's
moldavite.
amazing.
Um, Lucky to have found it again. So, wow,
That's cool.
that was my
Full circle.
surprise. I know, right?
So
Oh,
good.
what do you have?
My surprise is also rock related, obviously.
Of course.
So on my hike today, um, I got you a rock, obviously, because you can't not go on a hike and not get a rock. Um, so I don't know if my camera will pick it up. Oh, it doesn't.
Oh, oh, it has a little flash.
It
Oh,
has yeah, I don't know. It's some New Mexico quartz. But on the
yes, with
bottom it has
some
kind of a smoky quartz inclusion
iron
almost.
inclusions, darker inclusions.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got
So
some
this
mixed
was
elements in her quartz. Yes.
yes. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna send this to you soon along with the tincture I made, which is working very well. Very
Excellent.
calming, very good for sleep, good for your nervous system. Um, yeah.
I can't wait to try it.
Yeah.
You put me on to so many good herbal supplements.
I can't help it. My dad was an acupuncturist, and so like from the moment I was born, I was just surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of herbal supplements, and my dad being like, "Well, okay, you're feeling a little tired? All right, you want to take this, and this like 5 times a day." And and that was too overwhelming, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have a frontal lobe. Like I can't
Yeah.
I
5 times a
can't
day.
stay on
What?
top of that. Um, but it did give me a deep love and respect for herbs of like, look what this can do. Oh, try it out. Like, see if this will help your sleep because I've had bad sleep since high school, I think. And you can take Xanax every night to fall asleep, but it messes you up further, or you can take Benadryl and sleeping pills every night and I did that for like a while in college, but eh, like it doesn't really work and you just feel shitty. And so I've been on a long quest and finally
Mm-hmm.
found a good herbal blend that it doesn't make you sleepy if you take it during the day. Like for anxiety, you can just take it and then, but if you take it before bed, you actually get deep sleep, per my Fitbit measurement.
Oh,
So,
oh, wow. Oh, we have a scientific study to back this. Love
yes.
it.
Yes, and it has all the good ADD herbs in it too. ADD, ADHD kind of help the brain. So, anyway,
Can't
I will send you a
wait to
bottle
try it.
and I hope you like it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll have to do like an unboxing and try it and feedback. Yes,
Yeah.
it was going to be the night that I tell you that we should do an episode about the end of my Saturn return. Because,
Mm.
wow, I feel like I'm so close to being done and just want to be done. But I
Would
feel
you say
like
May 13th?
I think it's May 24th or
Okay.
25th.
Okay. I
Um,
can look it up specifically after this and we can schedule a little
yeah,
party.
and I'd love to, because I feel like maybe it's just me, but right now I'm getting really interesting, um, like the Moldavite being one example of instances or feelings I had 7 years ago
Mm.
that now I'm having in a different way, but it feels like I'm on an outer edge of the spiral. And like
Mm.
that's an intangible description. But like finding y- I don't know, finding similarities to where I was 7 years ago at the beginning of this spiral, being on a different level now, some
Yeah.
objects being the same, some situations having similar feelings and
Hmm.
contexts, but looking entirely different. And I'm like, oh, are
Mm.
we completing a 7 year cycle around the time of a return? I don't know, but it's weird, right? Like, you ever feel like you have
Mm.
deja vu from a earlier point in your life? It's like that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I that's it's so cool to be able to witness your healing in retrospect because when you're in it, um, you're just in it. And, it's you can have a certain amount of self-awareness, but being able to see, oh wow, look how I am in this pattern now. Like the
Mm,
same thing is coming up, maybe even the same like people or types of people, situations, environments, and then there's like a whole new you or a whole new me or. It's
yes.
so cool. It's such a like a privilege to be able to witness it.
From a higher perspective, absolutely. And you're exactly right. We don't always get to see it when we're in it. So now, even having perspective on it, um, is very interesting. And from a long term, right? Like, it's easy to look back, on like a few months ago, a few weeks ago, a few days ago, or like patterns that I'm keeping track of shorthand, but not really have that same randomness of multi-year. So that's cool. And um, I guess what I wanted to talk about tonight, Ursula, we're
Yeah,
on the same
yes.
wavelength, is in that vein, I want to talk about self-hatred, that is part of the growth spiral. So I'll introduce this
Mm.
topic by saying, looking back over the period of transformation of my Saturn return, of thinking about myself 7 years ago, or even a year ago, and how looking back on time and feelings of that come up with older versions of yourself, blame, self-criticism, why didn't I do that better, and reaching into the past and being critical of past versions of yourself, that doesn't stop when we get to the
Mm.
present, right? You get better with, I think, who you are and following things and deprogramming, but the further down you go, the further deeper you go in embracing some of these aspects of yourself that have a very strong hold on your personality,
Yeah.
shaping you in, I would say, non-productive ways. So, in this healing, as I go deeper, I get deeper, I get harder things confronted with, and you're never given more than you should. But I want to talk about that tonight because we
Mm.
don't talk about it enough in the quote messiness. We touch on it, but we don't really dig our fingers into it.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in talking about that and maybe even discussing releasing of it and not in just like,
Mm.
okay, let's do a ritual, let go of it, but like, how do we actively put our mind to say, this is enough? I'm putting my foot down
Mm.
with this
Yeah.
voice. Because we talked about rage last time and
Mm.
how you calm your nervous system. So I feel like this is another step in somatic self-soothing,
Yeah.
um, that I also experience personally as cyclical intrusive thoughts. So if we can figure out how to put a
Yeah.
stick in the spoke of the wheel tonight, to our own advantage, that's a prospect I'm willing to explore. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so down. I think that that is one of the deepest sticking places that I run into again and again and again. And it's automatic, which for me, which is so like looking at it from a self-compassion perspective is so sad. It's
Mm,
so sad that when I get, let's say, overstimulated or upset in some way or frustrated, any range of emotions, a lot of the time my first impulse, my first thoughts are targeted at myself. Like mean, critical, that black and white thinking of like you always do this, or just really things that I would never say to another person without having to like do some deep, deep apologizing and repair work after. And the fact
correct?
that it's so just automatic at myself, it it's sad and it hurts and it's strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things that we've talked about a little bit that maybe we should draw out a little more is that the fact that it's kind of an automatic or an intrusive thought pattern signifies that it's not us. It's not our personality
Yes.
so much as it is things we've heard from other people so many
Programmatic
times.
voices, yes, completely agree. And I wanted to ask you to that point when these are triggered, right? Or what starts, what ignites the thought pattern? Because I think they look different for different situations. I know for me, it tends to be a sense of a environmental or outward rejection or criticism,
Yeah.
um, that I intensify inwardly and just, dig a hole. So I'm curious, what does yours
Mm.
look like? Is it similar? Is it something else?
Yeah, that's such a wonderful question. I was dealing with this yesterday, and because it was Greg's birthday, I like had to speed through the like processing of it more quickly than I normally do because I was like, oh, I don't want to ruin his birthday. I want to like be a good girlfriend. But it's for me, it's rejection. It's feeling like someone's not there for me or isn't gonna be there for me. Um, or that they're upset with me for a reason that I think is unfair. I think is the big one for
Ooh,
me. And it's not what I think is unfair as my big adult self. It's my inner child being like, hey, like I wasn't being bossy. I was just telling you that I was hungry, was what it was yesterday.
oh yeah.
Or I'm telling you my need and you're not immediately meeting it, which you can hear pretty clearly is very small self, like young self, baby, infant, needs based. Um, and I think that's usually where mine comes from, is that way back when feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. And it comes in that young. Some of us have formative memories of crying out with a need and having it not be met. It's like
Hmm.
maybe there's a term for this somebody can supply, but it's like before you're really verbal, but you have like very soft edged memories. You might remember or have physical memory of a time that you cried and you were not neglected, but you didn't have your call or your need met.
Yeah.
Um, that happens kind of consistently the older you get, but it comes in and anchors for the first time at a very young age.
Hmm.
Um, and I can see not only is there anxiety, but fear of not being met uh, with your need. But then you internalize that and say, oh, I'm not worth being taken care of.
Right.
And then you justify and create reasons why you're not. Not in a logical sense. It's like almost like a
Yeah.
pathogenic type of thought that like takes fire and intensifies and doesn't I feels like wildfire to me. It's like the first snap feels like snapping a rubber band against your bare skin, but then it ignites and it just goes and goes and goes. And I think at points in my life, that voice served a purpose of making me feel um weirdly better than anybody else because I was
Hmm.
so tuned into my inner critic, I use it to fuel me.
Yeah.
And in my adult life now, having made it out of a survival mindset, it only attacks the self because there's nothing wrong environmentally to attack. So that's how you know, guys, like it's not a choice. It
Hmm.
doesn't come and go depending on, how much money you make, how you look
No.
in the mirror, how happy
Mm-mm.
you are in your relation. It isn't depend on any of those things, which is why, okay, how many heads does this thing have? How do we cut off the heads? So,
Yeah.
I want to go into that. Tell me about this from your angle and like the root of this from your perspective, because we pathologize it with our own experiences,
Yeah.
but let's talk about this collectively. Like, what do you know about
Yeah.
this?
Oh, yeah. So, um, I'll start with I loved what you said about like questioning why is this here? What purpose does this serve? Because it is with all of these things like perfectionism, overthinking, self-hatred, all of these things are a bundle of protective responses to real experiences. And you reach a certain point where those protective responses are not needed anymore, but they're still there. And I think that's kind of the point that we're at. But I'd love to like honor this mechanism, like self-hatred as what what good has it served? Because I think that's a really good way to work with these different parts of yourself. As opposed to
Wow.
saying like, well, self-hatred is obviously fucking terrible and no one should ever do it. Like that just pushes it further down in you. And then you feel shame around your self-hatred, which no, like no, no, no.
Exactly.
You're going the wrong way.
Oh,
So,
sweetie, you're beautiful just the way you are. How could you ever say something like that about yourself? Those things.
right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I
and
believe that. And if I heard you talk like that to yourself, I would say that to you.
right.
That's great. I love external validation. I think it's important. It doesn't hold this out. So where does
Yeah.
it root in from, right? We've talked about what triggers it.
Yeah.
How does it wheel its way in? And there's a number of theories about this.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me it comes up in a big way around things we've talked about before, but like the mother wound.
Yes.
And especially or not necessarily mother, it could be either parent, caregiver, whoever it is, but the critical caregiver, I think is
Hmm.
where this comes from. And we start to believe that we have to critique ourselves so we don't get in trouble. And so that if we are telling ourselves all of these mean things first, then when someone else says it, we're like, well, that doesn't even hurt that much because I already tell myself that every day. And it's almost taking back the power of it. Um, or that's how it's acted for me,
You can't
is
hurt me
like,
as good as I can hurt myself. And
yeah,
I love that you bring up it can be either critical parent. I think in the communities and the spaces we talk about this or see this now presented, that we are finally addressing core mother wounds, it is aligned with a feminine archetype of the death mother we've talked about before. It is
hmm,
like it is birthed from generational like mother woundness of like not being good
yeah,
enough of a caregiver, right, and provider, which isn't often associated with male archetypes, right? It's
hmm,
very like, and we're historically, societally very hard and make it impossible for women not to be um held by the chains of internalized misogyny as it
Right.
is, that it extends more easily to see it from a feminine healing perspective. But it isn't just that; it's totally expansive, and you see it as like, okay, your critical parent said these things to you, and then you're like, okay, wow, as an adult on a healing path, I'm like, wow, what have my parents been saying to themselves this whole time?
Yeah,
And what did
exactly.
they grow up hearing? And what did their parents grow up hearing? And it's
Yeah.
generational wounding.
It
And
is. It's yeah.
um, and we'll move that into another discussion about like the genealogy of generational trauma healing for people in our
Hmm.
generation starting to do that. And I saw a diagram recently of like the boomer generation, the Gen X generation, the millennials, the Gen Zs, and the trauma all of us sort of carry down the lines to each
Mm,
other from the like family tree level, which is
yeah.
fascinating. But it shows you that what's alive in yourself isn't just alive in you, it's been alive in other places like a parasite. And
Yeah.
so if you're going to heal this or get rid of this, um, for one, I think you start at the right place where you say, let's honor what it's done for us to get to where we are now. Let's honor
Hmm.
where it did take us through moments where it was needed for survival, where we had to be vigilant, right? Or being tough on yourself as a comforting headspace in a chaotic environment, right?
Mm. Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
or keeping you small so that people aren't seeing you and therefore criticizing you more. I think that's a big thing. I work
yes.
with people who are trying to get more visibility is
Mm.
self-criticism or self-hatred is often the first place to soften if you want to feel more comfortable being seen and sharing yourself with the world because it does keep you small, it keeps you under the radar.
Wow. Fear of being seen is a big one because if you stood out in a chaotic childhood environment, it was not safe for you, right?
Right.
And also the defense mechanism of if you could get to the problem before somebody else could, it was again a buffer between you and the person coming at you. So it did have a safety net, right? It had that purpose of if I hurt myself as much as I possibly can, nobody can do damage to me, right? That belief
Yeah.
system anchoring in. Um, but you and I are both like, okay, tired of it. Not having fun with this now in my
Right.
30s. I want to live a happy, carefree existence, not without feeling deeply, but without hurting myself to be able to ca- like carry and have the capacity for grief that isn't just self-deprecation, you
Yeah.
know? I need the capacity right now to hold space for bigger things than this.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're talking about like healing journey. I think another important point about self-criticism or self-hatred is like you can't read you can't like read about it and solve the problem. You can't I don't what am I trying to say? Like the work to move through is going into yourself. And it's very personalized and it's very accepting of yourself. And like that's how you move through it because this idea of, oh, I'm going to heal, I'm going to be the most healed person, and I'm never going to have anything wrong with me. Like that is also self-hatred because you're
Yes.
hating like where you are and who you are and your messy humanness. And so, like, this constant personal development is, I mean, I think personal development is awesome. Obviously, that's like my whole thing. But with this in particular, this self-criticism, it's like you just have to be nicer to yourself and you have to practice that. And that is the work. It's not in another book or podcast episode. Except this one.
Except this
But you know what I
one. This
mean?
is it.
It's an internal process, I've found.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ugh. And it's a hard one too, especially when on the healing arc. Um, if I've said this once, I'll say it a million more times on this podcast. It's wanting to break free of those things too and make those healthy choices even when they're uncomfortable. Like it's
Hmm.
putting in the work by showing yourself how well you can take care of yourself even when you're looking for evidence in your environment that you're not being taken care of and using that as an excuse to say you're not worthy of care. You know,
Right.
your deprogramming is a messy process. If you're an overthinker, have fun with those shoelaces, dude. Like they are knotted
Hmm.
as fuck. You have tied yourself into knots of unfortunately false belief systems and lies to show yourself how tightly wound and knotted you can be.
Yes.
Um, to show you like, oh, look how broken I can be and still survive. And then you're like, oh wait, it's not about how broken I can be. It's about surviving and finding how to loosen all of these knots,
Yeah.
one
So
pole at a time.
what are your favorite like so we've talked about this in the abstract.
Yes, yes.
As you're actually day to day going through your life and you encounter this, what what works for you? What tends to help?
Wow, great question. So I experience them in a variety of ways, right? And we talked about how these are intrusive thought patterns. And it's definitely something I struggle with as someone who also lives with like PTSD from experiences that have done this.
Yeah.
Um, and still like, and being in a spot where I'm embracing these really deeply and engaging with reprogramming, I will have thoughts that come into my head that I have a negative memory or connotation with, something embarrassing or
Yeah.
small I did. And I'll be driving to work, it'll come into my head, whatever. And sometimes it's just like a flashback of a random conversation I had 3 years ago and passing at a restaurant. And sometimes it's something that's a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
And I have to say to myself out loud, no, you're okay, you're good, I'm good.
Mm.
Because the unhealed part of that is part of me that thinks that I'm bad. So one of these intrusive
Right.
thoughts is you're bad. That's kind of harmless, but when you have it on
Mm.
repeat, it's really intense and it makes you lose your self-esteem and your confidence. So it can
Yeah.
be pretty intense. So sometimes it's out just saying to the thought, no, I'm good. It's if I need to diffuse it. If it's my nervous system in the spiral thinking and I'm not
Mm.
alone, it's usually um trying to take a moment to disrupt that thought with like some sort of a like if I have material hand, it's not like food. Like I'll take a drink of something, like I'll usually make a cup of
Hmm.
tea and I'll drink it very slowly. I'll engage myself in a physical sensory exercise that gets me more into the physical body
Yeah.
and not into the head spiral space. And if I have to get up and take a
Yeah.
walk or something, that's very good. So it's kind of like if I can't verbally disrupt it, I'll do something physically to tune into a physical sensation
Yeah.
that grounds me in the here and now, not where my head is telling me I'm going.
Yeah.
And then those are easy ones, right? That's like if I'm in a neutral environment. How do we do this when we're in a non-neutral environment, right? How does this happen when we're
Hmm.
in conflict with a partner, with a coworker, with a friend? That's the other piece I want to talk about is it's different when you're activated
Hmm.
versus inactive.
Yeah.
Do you have any pointers there, or should we get messy
Yeah.
in this one? Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I say we also get messy, but I do have some pointers.
let's go.
Because I um I'm in, a long-term relationship. Conflict comes up and
Yeah,
Greg and I have gone from being a very high conflict couple at the beginning of our relationship 8 years ago. Um, because we both had a lot of wounds and baggage, and it kind of happens at the beginning of a lot of relationships. But anyway, we went from
yes.
that to being, I would say, like good communicators. which is just amazing to go through that journey with someone. But anyway, shout out to Greg. Um,
Yes.
but
Yes.
w- one of one of the reasons why we've been able to go through that evolution, I think, is the way that we express what we're feeling in those moments of conflict and moving away from, I'm feeling this way because you didn't do this, and more into, whoa, like, I can't even talk right now. I'm too activated sometimes. Like, I need to go take a break. Sometimes that's the answer for me because I have my flight that I often need to do to calm myself down alone.
Right. Hmm.
And him understanding that more and being like, okay, cool, she'll be back in, 20 minutes, whatever it is. So that, right, allowing yourself to do what feels safe right at the beginning. Sometimes it's not available for me to do that for whatever reason. And so I'm just like, hey, I'm feeling this. I'm um like I hate myself and like verbalizing exactly what is going on in my brain. Like I'm like I just feel ashamed. I feel like a little helpless baby. And sometimes the words are more perfect than other times, but just expressing what is going on in here and in
Getting
here.
it out, really,
Getting it out and not in
truly.
a targeted way of you are causing this because they
And
don't.
not
Other
from,
people don't
no,
cause
not
it.
in a responding to them from that place. You're saying, here's what's happening in my brain.
Yeah.
This is a brain dump. Yes, I
And
agree with that too. I agree with all of those.
and
For one,
yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say from there, that relieves a little bit of the pressure. And
Yes.
then I can start to make connections, which feels really vulnerable to share, but is really important, has been really important for me to just be like, I'm feeling this way. This reminds me of when I was little and this happened. Or when I had this experience with my ex-boyfriend in college and blah, 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 blah. And I don't know if you've been on like the receiving end of that kind of communication, but it is so heart opening to have someone be vulnerable enough to be like, this reminds me of this really shitty time in my life, and I'm going through it again right now. Because that feels fine. Like if someone tells you that and you care about them, you're like, oh man, I am so sorry that happened to you. And that's usually the response that I get
Hmm.
in those,
Hmm.
what was a super high conflict moment comes kind of down to that like heart to heart compassionate understanding. And it's a messy process, but you know, that's kind of how it usually ends up going for me nowadays.
Yes.
In that with other people scenario. Yeah, what
Yes.
about you?
Yes. Agree on the interpersonal communication of if you need to take a step back because you're activated. Um, really great in partnership. It's something I try to have an awareness of before we get into conflict, where it's like, hey, when I'm in
Yeah.
conflict and I need to take a step back emotionally to clear my head if I'm too emotional, we'll come back and finish the conversation. If you don't have that available to you, try to say it the best you can if you are taking space in that conversation. Things I've learned by doing them wrong, things I've learned
Hmm.
by being too in my emotions to be able to relate these these boundary lines. So I think about that. And exactly as you say, when you do come out of the activated state into self-reflection, to say, this reminds me of that, you take it out of, it's this other person doing this to me
Yeah.
or myself. It's a clear, it's like clarity of, yes, the moment that this happened to me, and oh
Yeah.
God, I know I'm sad for myself, and I feel like I've articulated something that really bothered me,
Yeah.
and I can see why it's bothering me now, but this isn't what it was. And yeah, we're still experiencing things that are traumatic in our life, but I'm talking about you responding to a situation that's triggering from something in your past. um a new trauma response, kind of different, we can get to that another point. Sometimes new
Hmm.
trauma is reminiscent of old trauma but has new flavors. um but I'm talking really more about these moments that cause us these heightened in the basically neutral to non-neutral environment, causing these heightened reactions, and how do we move through them.
Yeah.
And completely agree with all of those things in the way of discussion. I need to talk about the aftercare of these conversations too, because
Yeah.
vulnerability is tough.
Mm.
And if you don't feel like once you have that share, you can really get out all of the feeling, you have to be able to be very patient with how long these conversations take, in the sense of your willingness to just sort of exist in whatever space you're going to exist. Sometimes the timing of this sucks, right? Like, I
Yeah.
can't do this right before I go to work. I can't do this before we go to a family gathering that we're going to be late
Yeah.
for. So it can be, the timing can be really odd and the timing can be really off. But again, very possible to communicate through it. But finding the right space to sit down with these thoughts to get them out, really important to being able to heal it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to make time. You gotta set your calendar appointment. Sorry, I'm gonna have to hold this in until I get home from work on a Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock, whatever. Not that we can always control it that well, but like, yeah, part of being an adult is setting aside time for your emotional regulation. I just said it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Point
that's
blank.
where, for me, when I have to do those like quick emotional regulation, because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I can't be balling at work right now. One, I do go to the bathroom a lot, to regulate. Um, have ever since I was a little kid. My mom was like, why do you spend so much time in the bathroom? And I'm like, because anyway.
Do the same thing. God, I love my
Um,
self-isolation in the bathroom. It's like,
oh yes.
yeah,
Cry a little.
totally.
But it also, but
Yeah.
that for me, those moments, if I can't even go to the bathroom or, have that available, that is when I really turn back to um consciously saying nice things to myself. Like consciously being like, whoa, that was a little harsh. Hey, you're doing great. Or
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, whoa, 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 you are being way too critical right now, even like naming it. Or like, whoa, what? Like, no, girl. No, 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 that's not true. And being like the witness of it. Pretending like your best friend just said those things about yourself. Like, well, how are you going to respond? You're going to be like, hey, don't talk about yourself like that. Depending on how you interact with your with your best friend, but you're going to be like, no, you're amazing, or hey, it's okay. And just that strong, compassionate witness of like, whoa, no, 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 we're not doing this. And what is amazing that I noticed the other day is if you do that enough consciously, having to do it, it starts to become automatic. And what ends up happening is you have those critical thoughts arise. And then there's this wonderful, wise voice that comes from somewhere and says, hey, no, shut it down. We're cool. And I wouldn't believe it if I didn't experience it myself, but it really, just like these negative self-hatred patterns became automatic, you can make self-compassion and loving thoughts about yourself automatic too.
It's programming. It's the
Yeah.
reprogramming. Again, it's the work you have to put in to ripen these fruits of that practice, but it is absolutely fucking possible.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not selling you a week-long shake cleanse
Snake
to
oil.
to get out of your system, but that work does make it possible. But
Yeah.
Eve,
Yes.
You know me. You know me and my little gimmicks. I thought it'd be fun to maybe tonight do a little ritual for those
Yeah.
of us who want a quick, easy fix.
Yeah, let's do a quick, easy fix.
A
Your
quick, easy
self-hatred will be
fix
gone forever ritual.
forever, 100%. You listen to this podcast, it will heal you completely. Ritual.
Asterisk. Terms and conditions
Asterisk.
apply.
Terms and conditions apply if you are not already invested in your own self-growth. This is not going to have any effect on you. Okay.
Yes.
And
Yes,
I
let's do it. What supplies do I need?
basically it's like what we're doing here is we're setting up a Kali ritual. We'll link the video. It's a beautiful meditation from Baba Ram Dass about Kali and offering your your most despicable things to Kali to eat. So it's midnight snacks with Kali time. All right,
Woo-wee.
guys, gather around your mystical treat boxes. You need an ashtray, your spiritual
Okay.
ashtray, which we've already talked about. Spiritual ashtray. Why is it spiritual? Because it has probably some sage in it you've burned previously. And if it doesn't, it has something else you burnt in it. And then I have your favorite crystals. I love selenite.
Mm,
Never gonna not have it around. Um,
yes.
I have a beautiful Lemurian, and just so happens my long lost piece of Moldavite. Feeling brave. I have some cedar I'm going to ignite to just smudge.
Yes, I have my
Pen and paper,
spiritual healing. Sorry, go ahead. Go
or
ahead.
incense, or candle, but fire is part of the ritual. So follow along at home. Bounce it off your smoke detector. While I'm doing that, I'm gonna do my little spinning with my pendulum because I'm leading us through this. I'm inviting in and opening up the sacred space the way that I do. For the moment I called in everybody, the wind just blew so loudly around my house. You call on everybody, the elders of the sacred hoop, the angels, the masters, mothers, Kali, and then it's outside my window. It is so intense, this breeze. Okay, I've asked if we may work together with Kali for a purification. Yep, Kali's ready to eat, so we're having midnight snacks with Kali. Kali is a very intense, dark feminine energy. Why do I get to work with Kali? Because I have been working in purification energy for a long time,
Mhm.
with a lot of other masters, mothers, uh, gods, goddesses of all realms and walks, Tibetan, Egyptian, you name it, deities. So it's not a nominational. So they kind of come to me more for like their purpose. And we can know Kali is like the destroyer and is also a destroyer of like the non-righteous, right? It's she
Mhm.
takes great pleasure in destructive of that which is destructive, right? So let's talk about that in relation to what we're here doing today is talking about the parts of ourselves that are destroying ourselves. And so she's no one is better to swallow the parts of ourselves that have been hurting us than someone who is so eager to destroy that which is destructive and is herself a destroyer in a powerful way. It transmutes by fire being eaten by a fire eating being. You're creating and transmuting this into something else and something higher. So this is our juice cleanse for your self-hatred ritual. And my pendulum says, let's go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do, take your paper and your pen. Write down. We ask her. Okay, I asked her if we should write down the things we hate most about ourselves. Write down the things you hate the most about yourself, like truly, like okay, like I don't know, not just dumb stuff, like the things that you like, your really self-critical thoughts. We're not going dark thoughts, we're going self-critical, where you dial in on self-hatred, those, okay? Okay, I have a whole paper list. You let me know when you're ready to go.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Got it locked. Loaded.
You have your incense. I'm gonna light my cedar again because it takes a good chunk of time to get it to light up. I'm not really building a fire here, but I am trying to get a little bit of smoke going.
Mhm.
Okay. With my fire going, I'm going to say with my note in tow, you have to be serious when you do this. This is the only time I need you to be 100% serious. Is you are going to, when you offer this to Kali, your blaze, whatever, you are letting her eat this. This is your gift to her, your hatred, your destructive thoughts, your ways of being, these beliefs that you've just written down. When you set them on fire, you give them to her, you do not take them back. So, this is a releasing ritual that I'm telling you before we do it. If you're going to try to suck these back from Kali, and we've already talked about how we're a little low key afraid of Kali, just letting you know what you're getting yourself into. You try to snatch back your self hatred from Kali, that's a you problem. Okay? You gotta be ready to surrender this to her. Okay? This is no takesies backsies. Right? Okay. Say your little whatever. Thank you, Kali. We offer this to you to eat. Drop it into your ashtray. Please be careful. Offering you this, telling you, eat this. Kalima, Kalima, Kalima. Eating away this negativity, eating away erosion, eating away the self-doubt, the self-hatred, the self-deprecation, allowing you to blaze your perfect fire through this, cleansing, clearing, transmuting, offering, and finally sealing. Amen and thank you.
Amen.
Fun little ritual. I know mine clear a little bit further. You let yours burn as long as it needs to. That paper went up fast. It is already
Ah.
gone.
Do not hold your ashtray if it is metal, everyone. Use good fire safety.
Ellie's is ceramic. It is insulated. Do not pick it up and show the camera. Do not leave it unattended.
Do not leave it
Um,
unattended.
we're gonna call this the pyrotechnic episode.
Hmm.
Kali's lunchbox. So I know that was kind of like, oh, let's do this. I want to know how this goes. Check in with me
Yeah.
later. I needed that for myself so much, and I already feel a deep sense of just in doing that, like a welling up of grief and relief.
Mm.
So have your
Mm.
feelings about it after, because these are things we've had to and have decidedly released from ourselves after being ready to, because they no longer serve a purpose, and we thank them for when they have, but they don't align with us now, and we've got to stop, you know, got to stop
Yep.
sometime, right?
Yeah,
And I was thinking about this
absolutely.
earlier, and we'll wrap this up shortly, but I was thinking about this, so we could talk about it, like low key funny, but also true. Like, Ursula, what do you miss most about your life from before you decided to go on your healing trajectory? And like, the silly answer is right or wrong. But I thought I'd ask you, wrong answers only. What do you miss most about not being on your healing journey?
Mm. Just like partying. Like,
I was gonna say doing cocaine and like what everything that came with that. Would none of it's like, okay, it's not that great. It's not that fun. It's very problematic. But it's just like, yeah, I kind of miss being self-destructive.
yeah,
Which is why this is so necessary, is like the self-destructive fun that we were having was just that, destroying the self. So part of our
yeah,
healing journey is, as we get deeper and deeper into it, is the outer behaviors. Now it's the internal programming.
yes.
So progress. But
Yeah.
agree, miss partying. But in a good way. But like that
Yeah.
was, yeah, was it fun? But like, yeah, of course. But I wasn't happy. I was hurting.
No, it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. I
Mm-mm.
was just able to
Mm-mm.
be disconnected. That's really what I mean is the ability to be disconnected from feeling shitty. Because now, whew, I'm in tune. I'm in tune. I feel when I'm angry. I feel when I'm way too bloated and have been like eating the wrong foods all week. And I feel it. I feel it all now. And I'm really grateful for that. But, for a time it was definitely easier to just feel good, man. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, dude, hit this blunt. Yeah, dude, you want a shot? I'll pour shots. You want a shot? And it's just like, yeah, temporary versus the eternal. So I don't know. I'm here trying to get that eternal chill going, and that means doing whatever, and not cocaine. So it's all good. Did we talk about drugs on this episode? We've talked about drugs. We've talked about arc. Yeah, we've really had a good span. We didn't really get too dirty, but I just want to make sure that those who see the explicit content get the explicit
Get
content.
their money's worth. Absolutely.
I did have my tongue tricks at the beginning of the episode, so I feel like this
There
is
you go.
$1 million episode right here.
$1 million.
Incredible. Well, that was fun. Do you have any final thoughts?
Um, yeah. So we've created kind of a vacuum with
Mm.
releasing these thoughts about ourselves. And as you were saying, we can't take them back now. So I encourage everyone to consciously be a creator. Think about, well, okay, now that I am free of self-hatred and self-criticism, what does my life look like? Who am I? What do I think about myself instead? And you get to be the creator to fill what we just released. So try it out.